I covered a story recently on my podcast about Kellogg, the cereal company, starting an All Together campaign to raise awareness about the fact that we're all human and we should have basic human respect for each other. Naturally, the backlash against them for spreading this message was outrageous. So let's give this article a read and see what it has to say. Let's get into it. I'm going to be very careful about what I say here because as I don't care a whole lot about monetization, I care very much about how many people see this video. And if I don't watch my words, it could make the video and more broadly my channel silently disappear. I feel like I haven't addressed Ken Ham much on my channel, but the dude is definitely worthy of addressing. If you guys don't know Ken Ham, he's the dude who runs the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. He's pretty anti-science and he shows it off gloriously through his tweets on this subject. So let's give it a read and see what this article has to say. This article is by The Friendly, and a lot of you guys probably know him, Hemant Mehta. I read from his blog fairly often. This one is actually by him. Religious conservatives lash out at Kellogg's over anti-Christian cereal. So let's read this and see what it has to say. Kellogg's recently announced that it would be selling 6 of its most popular cereals in one box for a promotion called All Together, quote unquote, while making a $50,000 donation to support anti-bullying and advocacy causes on behalf of GLAAD Spirit Day. That's GLAAD. So if you're the sort of person who loves Frosted Flakes and Frosted Mini Wheats, what is wrong with you? Then you're in luck. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't like either of those things. They're terrible. We all belong together. So for the first time in history, our famous mascots and cereals are offered exclusively together in the same box for All Together cereal. It's a symbol of acceptance no matter how you look, where you're from, or who you love. That's a good message. I can respect the hell out of that. This is Hemant Mehta speaking again. Sure, I mean, they're just selling you 6 boxes of cereal, at least 2 of which no real human should ever want. That's very true. They're terrible. But if it's for a good cause, I'll suck it up and have some Raisin Bran. If you're cynical, you just shrug this off as a corporate attempt to sell you something in the name of a good cause. But it's also a good sign when large companies throw their support behind groups like GLAAD. No wonder conservative Christians are furious. The 3 moms at 1 million moms, Twitter account 3,759, have already launched a protest. Oh my God. They launched a protest. Okay. Kellogg's has supported the community for a long time, and now it's obvious they're going after our children. This is ridiculous, man. Kellogg's goal is to normalize the LGBTQ lifestyle by using cereal mascots to brainwash children. Okay. The company is also donating $50,000 to GLAAD to support its anti-bullying and LGBTQ advocacy work. Okay, first of all, let me just mention there is a difference between mind control and brainwashing. They are not brainwashing. That's a joke to call that brainwashing. It's a joke. Since I mentioned it, let me just touch on brainwashing and how it differs from mind control. Brainwashing can be viewed as an accelerated version of mind control. So mind control can be seen from groups like Jehovah's Witnesses who slowly mold their members' personalities into something that's more useful to the group. Jehovah's Witnesses, for example, call it the Christian personality or the new personality.
This month we focus on how we can refine ourselves as Christians by imitating Jehovah's holiness. We'll learn from this dramatization how to adjust not only what we say, but also how we think.
That's something I'll be debunking pretty soon. But as I was saying, brainwashing is an accelerated, forced indoctrination. Think of the military. Love it or hate it, doesn't really matter. I say this as a factual statement, not a jab. The military brainwashes their people. In fact, most militaries do. You can debate the merits or morals of that fact, but that's what it is. They use authorities to break you down and build you back up in their image. Most of the time when people talk about being brainwashed, what they're actually talking about is being mind controlled. Same end result, different methods of getting there. Okay, let's continue with the clip. These people seriously think Tony the Tiger will make you. Creationist Ken Ham also chimed in, since he wasn't busy updating his exhibits. By the way, for those of you who may not know, Ken Ham is the owner, I think, of the Ark Encounter in Kentucky and also the Creation Museum. He says, "We are not all together as the LGBTQ lifestyle worldview is anti-God, anti-biblical, anti-science, and consists of only a small minority in the culture. But many will altogether not support such in-your-face anti-Christian marketing." Okay, that's really weirdly worded, and I feel like he was missing a couple of commas in there that made that more confusing, but whatever. It's Ken Ham. I can't expect much from the guy. It goes on to say, imagine seeing a cereal box and thinking it's a form of Christian persecution. Imagine how flimsy your worldview must be when a smiling sun threatens everything you stand for. Imagine being a creationist and calling other people anti-science. No wonder Ken Ham looks so angry all the time. Anyway, buy the cereal or don't, but revel in the fact that some Christians are whining because a cereal company said people should be kind to one another. They could easily be mad about the amount of sugar in this stuff, but they've chosen to attack the message of acceptance and inclusion instead. Well said. 100% agree with that. The interesting thing about Kellogg is the guy, I forget his first name, but his last name was Kellogg, like when this company first started. He was a Seventh-day Adventist. He was one of the people who popularized circumcision in the U.S. Everybody seems to think it was like a religious thing or a sanitary thing or whatever. It's complete BS. Not true at all. Fabricated. It's made up. Kellogg was trying to prevent people from touching themselves. That was his goal behind starting the circumcision thing. Before circumcision took root, you know what he was doing? He was tying metal wires through people's, and so every time like they got interested or excited or whatever, it would tear through skin. And that was an incentive to not get interested in anything. He made cornflakes so bland because he wanted to kill people's libido. He wanted to kill people's drive. That was the goal behind cornflakes. You should really seriously read about this guy. Read about Kellogg. He was an extremist as far as that does not get more extreme than this guy. He was a nutcase, and he was doing everything that he could to make people not be interested in anymore. So it's actually really messed up. And it's kind of funny now that Kellogg is coming out in support of inclusion and equality. I'm glad, 100%. I'm so glad to see that. You know, maybe the company is just quote unquote pandering, trying to, you know, get more sales or whatever. But honestly, I don't care. As long as the company's out there spreading a good, honest message, that's fine with me. Pander away. If they believed something else, then they'd be spreading that. If they were against marriage, they would be spreading that message instead. So Kellogg, obviously, as a company, or the leadership of Kellogg, is for that message. I'm really, really glad to hear that Kellogg is doing this. Makes me pretty happy. Got another super chat from We of Little Faith. This is hilarious given the origin of Kellogg's. Yes, exactly. It is very funny. Like I said, I don't really care what reason the company has for doing this. As long as they're standing up for a good cause, I'm happy. They could have chosen any other message to broadcast, including some questionable ones. But they chose this. So whether or not it's pandering, they're doing the right thing. And I can respect them for it. Hopefully we get to see other companies following suit. The group of people who don't support this message is really very small, but they're extremely vocal. So we have to continue to fight it when we see it. But in the end, we're winning in the battle of ideas. So go out and buy some Kellogg cereal. They aren't like those General Mills fuckers. If you like what I do and you want to make sure I can continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, you can support me on Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. I'm trying to make a shirt design for every cult I've covered. I haven't gotten every one, but I'm working on it. So check it out and see if your cult is up there. Second, you can support me by checking out my game shop. I sell controller, cartridge, and game box stands for every system from the original Nintendo and Sega Game Gear to the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. So give that a look too. And finally, if you want to support me in some way other than monetarily, you can check out my other YouTube channels. I have a retro game channel where I answer questions like, why does Shy Guy have a mask? And why are CRT TVs the best way to play retro games? I also have the podcast where I talk about stuff I don't feel I can say on a monetized channel. And finally, I have my main channel where I talk about cults. I wish I didn't have to worry about dancing around subjects carefully in the first place, but I chose to do this as a full-time job, so unfortunately I rely on YouTube's AdSense and on the support of patrons to continue doing the work I do. Anyways, check me out in all those places if you haven't already. Thanks for listening, guys.